Hi, this is Joel Rosenberg at the White House in Washington, D.C. for All Israel News. There have been enormous protests against the Biden administration's policies on behalf of Israel. There's enormous pressure from left-wing Americans, certainly in Congress, but also in the grassroots, that President Biden is too pro-Israel. And this is one of the reasons that he has been, let's say, inconsistent, to put it mildly, about his position to Israel. Obviously, I mean, I think it's obvious. I think it's fair to say that at his heart, President Biden is someone who loves Israel and wants Israel to be safe and secure, and that President Biden is among the most pro-Israel leaders within the Democratic Party. Maybe the best, among the best that the Democratic Party has to offer when it comes to being pro-Israel. He calls himself a Zionist, meaning he believes that Israel has a right to exist, that Jews have a right to have their own state there. That being said, his policies have been inconsistent. He's putting enormous pressure on Israel to stop the war in Gaza, to accept a ceasefire on terms that many, maybe most Israelis think is not safe for Israel. Stopping the war in Gaza before finishing off the war against Hamas, defeating, vanquishing Hamas, so that Hamas terrorists and its ideology can never rise again and control the Gaza Strip and use it as a base camp for launching genocidal terrorist attacks against Israel and the Jewish people and the Jewish state. So Biden very much wants this war to stop. That's not a wrong view. We all want the war to stop. The question is, at what cost? The Biden administration is putting enormous pressure on Israel to stop all fighting in order to hopefully get a deal to get all the hostages out. Now, every Israeli wants to get the hostages out and do it as safely and peacefully as possible. And the IDF operation the other day to rescue 4 Israeli hostages was wonderful, miraculous even. But the question now is, how do you get the next 120, the final 120 hostages that we think are still living, how do we get them out safely while they're still alive? We're nearly at 250 days now. So this is a huge question. And the Biden administration's view of how to do it is essentially to end the war in Gaza and give Hamas essentially what they want, which is to stay in power and that Israel would not fight them to the finish, not vanquish the Hamas terror forces in Rafah, much less in the rest of Gaza once and for all. And this is a huge disagreement between Israelis, many Israelis, and the Biden administration. Now, there are Israelis who do believe that, especially hostage families, and many on the left who believe that, look, and I wouldn't even say just on the left. There are others, Israelis, who do believe, they're not the majority, but they believe that this war in Gaza should be stopped at all costs to get the hostages out, that there's no other way to get the hostages out except to give Hamas essentially what they want, which is an end to the war in Gaza and Israel to fully withdraw and promise never to come back in. But most Israelis don't think that is wise, don't think that's safe. And this is a huge tension point between the government of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and American President Joe Biden. And here in Lafayette Park, there have been enormous anti-Israel protests. I'm going to show you some of the signs that are still here. It's not a day, today is not a day here on Sunday that we're seeing a lot of protests. There are some pro-Palestine, anti-Israel, and one would argue based on the signs, pro-Hamas as well. That may be in the eye of the beholder. But while today is a rather quiet, sunny, breezy, peaceful day here across from the White House, there have been very intense protests against Biden's perceived pro-Israel policies, and those protests are just a tip of the spear. Like, you know, these are the type of same sentiments that are these protest sentiments, anti-Israel sentiments, anti-Jewish sentiments increasingly, that are showing up on American college campuses and are showing up in polling. And so this is an issue that All Israel News continues to cover, and I'll be covering it not only here on All Israel News, but on the Rosenberg Report as well. So from the White House, from Lafayette Square Park, just across from the White House, this is Joel Rosenberg for All Israel News.